evening, everyone, and welcome to the Q Files. I'm back from a week away, or a week off, I should say, getting my stuff together. I was in the desert Southwest in the Four Corners region of, Goodnight Monument Valley, Mesa Verde, all of the old ruin areas. And when I say ruin areas, the place called the Valley of the Gods. So I took lots and lots of photographs, and obviously I hope to be able to get them up on my website as soon as I can get them scanned in. But I want to especially thank Doug Hagman for taking over my show last week for me to give me a break. As you know, and most of you could probably tell, I was getting pretty fried. You know, one of the things I've realized is that literally there's so much that's out there to know and to discern. The right amount of information to share and the right time to share it is a gift that only God can give. And sometimes I have jumped the gun, and there are other times I wish that I could have gone further but couldn't because of the constraints or just the common wisdom of not putting anybody in peril. Let me share something. And this is what I want to share. Tonight I'm going to share a lot of stuff from my heart. Look, the deal is that I've been on talk radio now for 11 years, I think. I've been in the preparedness business for 25 years. And again, I don't think that there are many people out there currently living that have been sounding the alarm for as long as I have, obviously excluding all the biblical prophets and stuff, but I'm talking in a contemporary sense. But one of the things I realize is that there is a thing called information overload. And it's been my prayer and continues to be my prayer that I speak as effectively and clearly as possible and don't veil what shouldn't be veiled, but also protect. It's a balancing act, everyone. Sometimes I feel like I'm a juggler. And by the way, you wouldn't want to see me juggle, especially swords, because there'd be a bunch of people who'd be impaled. But one of the things that, again, that came to me as I was taking my photographs, we're out in the middle of the desert, 105 degrees some places, and just back roads that lead to some of the most gorgeous mesas. For any of you who've ever been to Mesa Verde, where the Anasazi ruins are, fascinating. I can tell you this, the political correctness of the National Park Service is exemplary. They sure don't want to touch on certain ideas. Number one, who ate the Indians of the desert Southwest out of existence? Why do people, when they could live down in the valley with water, plentiful rivers and everything, why do they move to literally the cliffs and the rocks and build themselves a fortress, if you might say? In other words, not only what were they trying to protect themselves from, and at incredible expense, but the whole story of the desert Southwest is totally different than the political correctness. Now, saying all that, I want to get into tonight's topics because, again, ladies and gentlemen, today oil has topped $44 a barrel. Now, I don't know if you know how significant that is because, again, this voice on the radio or voice in the wilderness has been talking at large and at length about what's going to happen when the infrastructure of the United States is attacked, refineries, the transportation. And I want to go on record as saying this, is that we haven't seen anything yet in oil. My informed sources are telling me that at some place between $55 a barrel and $60 a barrel, which would translate out into $3 gasoline, is when they expect the full-scale press or the full-court press of all of America's enemies to go into effect. Now, I remember people said, oh, oil will never get over $40 a barrel. Why, the government would never allow it. Well, guess what? Who do you think, is behind a lot of this? Let me share this with you. This is an email from Wendell. He says, Steve, I figured yesterday with the threat level raised on Fox News prior to Tom Ridge's press conference, the word was they would raise New York and Washington, D.C.'s level to red, to orange, and now the U.S. government is saying that Wall Street is one of the official targets. Do you think maybe it's time to bring down the U.S. markets? My answer to that is yes. Or do you think maybe the financial bubble is fixing to pop, and that they can't hold it together any longer, and they need the cover of an attack or an alleged attack, or as now officially they have warned the American people, so if either the bubble pops or some type of attack, they can say, we told you so, we warned you all. I think this just hardens my case to be prepared no later than September 1st. It's amazing to me, Wendell, and to others that, again, given the specificity of the warning, and by the way, I'm one of those people that doesn't believe that all the terrorist alerts are basically just designed to shake everybody up. I believe, and let me go on record as stating this, that there are foreign devils, if you will, and I mean that literally. I believe that there are domestic devils, even deep within our own government, rogue elements that are going to help out whoever wants to destroy this country. And I believe that we are on vapor lock as far as borrowed time goes concerning the things of a living God. You know, as I see and saw some of the most beautiful country I've ever seen in my entire life, it was like God with just his fingernail inscribed into that part of the desert, some of the most incredible and gorgeous colors and shapes and forms. You know, again, there's no way to put it into human form, and the antiquity of what I saw and the names of everything are fascinating to me, but that's another show another time. I want to read you a fabulous editorial by David J. Smith. David is a man that has held out the beacon of truth, the light of God's Word. He writes for Newswatch magazine. He is the editor of it. And I want to read this because I came back and someone had emailed me this, and I thought, right on, David. He's a fabulous man of God, and I can tell you this, that the guy really knows what happens and what is going on. Now, here's what he said. Everything looks wonderful. Interest rates are low, people can buy houses and cars, and there's relative peace. Why should I get excited and believe any doomsday predictions? We probably have 40 to 50 years before the end times and Jesus returns, said one person recently. When an individual rejects the testimony of Jesus, which is the spirit of prophecy, his or her mind begins to be darkened to the truth. Reality is blocked out of their conscious thinking. Jesus inspired Paul to say, "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them." And he's quoting 1 Thessalonians 5:3. He says that we're living in the time now where at any instant something suddenly is going to happen. Now listen to this. Alan Greenspan even told the nation that the Federal Reserve gave Bill Clinton a good economy so he could be reelected. But when Bush came into office, the real economy began to appear. Everything looked rosy because the Illuminati wanted it to look that way. They laid down part of their final 100-year program by saying they would get the world on speculation. How can they deceive the world into investing in the stock market if times were bad? They wrote, as they get closer to their kingdom coming into being, that they would heap to themselves monopolies in business. They would accumulate to themselves all the gold. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, the Government Accounting Office will not sign off on the Treasury's report until they account for a lot of missed gold. Guess what? It isn't there. So keep an eye on this story. It's going to be a big story that the GAO, the Government Accounting Office, is looking for literally billions and billions of dollars in gold that they can't account for. Then when they pulled the plug, the stock market would crash and people would lose everything. It was all to happen suddenly and without warning. Can anyone deny that mega-billion-dollar corporations are merging? Can anyone deny that the stock market has been run up to abnormal values? Are stocks simply pieces of paper that contain value only if someone else is willing to chance paying a higher price, who in turn expects to sell to someone else who will pay even yet a higher price? Some stocks pay dividends. That is if the company makes a profit. The Illuminati said they would have gold and monopolies in business to sustain them through the planned collapse. The human race as a whole will have nothing to see them through this time of turmoil. In the religious community, we have people who believe they're going to be raptured out before these things happen. They are being deceived. Then we have those that are in denial that prophecy will conclude in their lifetime. Result, they distance themselves from the messengers that God sends to them to teach them the truth. They look for someone to soothe their ears. They want to hear about love and nothing else. However, Jesus inspired Paul to write, "But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that that day should overtake you as a thief." 1 Thessalonians 5:4. Paul on several occasions wrote, "Be not ignorant." Ignorant simply means to be without proper understanding. When someone goes into a denial mode, they can't be reasoned with about the circumstances. It usually requires a real earth-shaking experience to bring them out of denial and back to reality. Jesus predicted that religious deception would come. He predicted wars and revolution. He predicted famines and pestilence in the last days as signs. His coming was nearing. We saw World War I and II. We've seen many Illuminati, Russia-fomented revolutionary wars, just like Jesus said. We see chemical and biological weapons of mass destruction being produced in laboratories. We've even seen wars supposedly to stop the production of these agents of mass destruction against Iraq. All these are predicted in Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21, and Revelation 6. The Internet has vital statistics concerning the increase in earthquake activity. When will some ever believe? The February 5th, 1999 St. Louis Dispatch had an article concerning the next big one along this New Madrid fault line. A distinguished panel of experts on earthquakes had a meeting in St. Louis sponsored by the University of Michigan. Will it shake soon? With the military downsizing, we couldn't put together enough pilots to safely fight a war. Only 61% of our pilots are re-enlisting. Russia called upon America and her NATO allies to furnish money and manpower that made her nuclear weapons Y2K compliant. Bill Clinton okayed the deal, saying it will prevent nuclear war. China is building her military up at a breakneck speed. If we are not living in the end times, now listen to this, there will never be an end time. We are being offered 2 skull-and-bone candidates for president in the 2004 elections. John Kerry talks about jobs for Americans, yet he and his wife Teresa own 32 factories in Europe and 18 in Asia and the Pacific. In addition, the Heinz Company leases 4 factories in Europe and 4 in Asia. They also own companies in Mexico and the Caribbean. How many thousands of people lost their jobs when these companies relocated to foreign lands? Not only is John Kerry taking away jobs from American workers, he's also taking them away from American farmers. He's importing food from his foreign companies into the United States. Oh well, business as usual for the elite. Now, ladies and gentlemen, again, the Illuminati is very real, and the reason why I don't spend so much time on the Council on Foreign Relations, the Illuminati, and all that stuff is because I believe we're at 0 hour. I know that the preterists or preterists believe that the scriptures have been fulfilled. They don't acknowledge dual prophecy, and they basically have their future planned out for them. The pre-tribulation rapturists have their future planned out for them, but Paul, the apostle, talks about a sudden destruction coming upon America. Now, I want to share this with you. I stand by my story that on the 15th of July, America was almost nuked. I've read the cutting-edge article that some of you sent me, and let me share this with you. I have friends that are in nuclear physics, and I asked them point blank, I said, what do you say to the people that are saying, well, all nuclear weapons are absolutely discernible from our space-based sensors and platforms? He said, if that were true, you wouldn't see Nest helicopters flying, would you? Now, here's what one of them told me. This man is a quantum physicist. He said, Steve, the way they've designed these suitcases, and we're talking about suitcase nukes, they would be very difficult for Nest, the nuclear emergency search team, I almost said nuclear emergency suitcase team, maybe that's even better, to locate them. While they use less plutonium, they are also using a form of mercury and fusion detonators. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I talked to you about red mercury. I interviewed Sam Cohen a number of years back. I think it was almost 7 years ago. And red mercury really does exist. So here's what my quantum physicist friend is saying. He's telling me and telling you and telling the world that, look, there's a new technology out there, and it uses fusion detonators, and it's using a form of mercury. Now, ladies and gentlemen, red mercury isn't something you go break a thermometer and add a red coloring to it in any way, shape, or form. It is a product generated in a nuclear reactor that is incredibly, incredibly unstable. And basically, he's saying the kind of technology that now Al-Qaeda, and remember, let me share this with you. And for those of you to save your emails, I have said over and over and over that the Russians and the Chinese are using the different terrorist organizations to have plausible deniability to the world, but to utilize a first detonation complex that would go off concurrently with a launch on the United States. Again, so many people cannot even handle this. But let me give you a little background. I was called by a very well-known radio broadcaster in the Northeast. He was so shaken up when he basically had heard about this, but he didn't hear about it from me. I was the one that first broke the story. But he heard about it through some friends of his in one of the intelligence agencies. I don't know them, nor would I want to know them, but they let my friend know point blank that this thing was real. And then a military analyst got confirmation that basically everybody went to the oh crap mode, and I'm sorry for using that word, when basically they had a real situation going. Now, for those of you that are smug and say, well, our space-based sensors can pick them up. No, they can't. The inventor of the neutron bomb went on record as stating on my radio show and is available in our archives the fact that you can even shield neutrons with wax, you know, paraffin, and certain thicknesses. He also went on record as saying you can control it electromagnetically. In other words, you can set up a magnetic containment field. So, in essence, you'd have to be looking for a magnetic field or magnetic anomalies along with the nuclear anomalies. My friends are also telling me that the packages that, meaning the nuclear weapons, were a lot smaller than the guys from the nuclear emergency search team are used to looking for. And he said they were placed within such a set pattern that it would even increase the destructive force on an unimaginable magnitude. And ladies and gentlemen, again, I was told that there were 4 that could not be disarmed, and those were taken out to sea and detonated. And let me share this with you. again, because of the nature of what's going on behind the scenes, I've heard of people saying, well, they have top secret clearances and they don't know anything about this. Understand, if top secret is one, I'm talking about 30 levels of top secrecy above that. So, in essence, what I'm sharing with you, for those who, quote, held old top secret clearances and are unfamiliar with the other clearances that are out there, that's nothing compared to what we're talking about. It's also interesting that there are groups within our own government that know they cannot trust other groups within the government. I know that there's a new case of an FBI whistleblower that's just been absolutely run through the ringer, and his statement is, all in all, look, we can't do anything about terrorism because the system has been designed not to be effective. And I got to share this with you. When I was receiving my death threats from a specific group of how do I say this, very disgruntled jihadis in Brooklyn, when the FBI was even mentioned, they just laughed, and they were making statements like they have their people placed in the highest levels of the FBI. So when the FBI is relying on Arab interpreters that may have mixed allegiance, how do they even know they get the truth? Well, enter Laura Mansfield, ladies and gentlemen. And Laura caught total crap from a lot of people when she found, out of 55,000 frames, a specific code sequence. Someone said, well, how can she do that? Well, first of all, let me just tell you this if you don't know this. Laura is a genius. I'm not bragging her up, but I'm telling you point blank that the people criticizing her are like in first grade, and she's got multiple PhDs from multiple universities, the equivalent in what she knows about Arabic and knows about a lot of the Internet. There's nothing that she does not understand or know about the Internet. So, again, the ad hominem attacks that have been levied against Doug, myself, Laura, Sean, the others at Northeast Intelligence Network, you've got to understand that there is an orchestrated attempt to destroy the messengers. Now, that just goes with the territory. I'm aware of that. But I want to put you in remembrance of a couple things. I've been talking to you about the power outages, and people said, oh, I don't like what you're inferring. Inferring? I am not inferring anything. I'm telling you point blank the power outages, the majority of them, and I'm saying up in the 90 percentile, are orchestrated. Then I'm telling you also that the refinery fires that no one even wanted to, that no one wanted to start putting two and two together. They thought they were all random events. Oh, gee, those were just accidents and the refineries are getting old. No, they weren't. I've talked to the security people at those refineries. I know specifically what they have said. I know what they were told to say to the public, okay, to you guys. Okay, now let's go to the next one. We have American Airlines. We have the airlines having glitches. There is so much redundancy built into the systems, especially in the reservations and all of the things that it takes to run an airline, that they have had specific attacks, cyber attacks, and the ones you don't know about, upon the banks, upon the financial institutions, the cyber attacks even sophisticated enough to interfere with missile command. Specific attacks that were so defined, cyber attacks, that the Capitol computers have been taken down. So, again, what I'm saying is that this is not random. Now, I want to make this very, very clear. For all of those of you that think this is just a plot to get the current occupant of the White House reelected, of course it is a plan, a scheme, because there are those who want to overthrow this once great nation that used to walk in the fear of the living God. I ask you this. Notice every strange anomaly that's happened. Notice the fear factor that's gone up. Oh, we kicked Jesus out of school prayer a long time ago, and now to the American Sewage Liberties Union and others, God is under attack totally, to the point where there's all sorts of denigration. Now, I guarantee you, the Muslims don't allow that denigration to what they believe, yet the Christians remain almost astonishingly silent. And ladies and gentlemen, you don't understand that the outbreak of attacks on 6 Christian churches in Iraq is being orchestrated by the very same devil who's getting ready to orchestrate that in the United States. I was told, and I don't have access to every location of every device, but they were placed in areas where they would have achieved maximum destruction. And I don't know if any of you know what an overdriven explosion is, but you use the force of the primary explosion, and in conjunction timed with a secondary explosion, you get, I guess you'd say, more bang for the buck. Now, in the world of whoredom, profiteering, and weapons brokering and smuggling, again, I don't know how to make it any clearer than this, that it is anything and everything is available on the block. Now, I've had a bunch of emails today concerning Al-Qaeda's new threat to basically take out Italy, and they're saying giving them earthquakes. I don't know if you know this, but before, good night, Lebed, General Alexander Lebed was murdered, he was talking about weapons like this. Vladimir Zhirinovsky was talking about weapons, shockwave weapons, basically weapons that can use incredible, almost like imagine slapping your fist with another fist, imagine electromagnetically generating that, and then applying it to the different fault lines. Oleg Kalugin, defector, former director of operations for the KGB in the United States, basically stated openly that the Russians were responsible for some of the biggest earthquakes in Asia when they were testing some of their new weaponry out. Well, it appears that Al-Qaeda now is in possession of those weapons, too. And if you think all this stuff is just a bunch of nonsense, and by the way, I'm still going on my original intention, or contention, forgive me, on the intent behind it. I don't believe we're going to have another election. I could be wrong. If I do, I'll say it. I apologize, but I don't think at this point. Did any of you see George Bush today on television when he gave his broadcast? I can tell you point blank, he looked he looked really, really stressed out. Anybody else agree with me? And I didn't only I didn't only listen to what his words were being spoken. I was watching his body language. And as I looked around, they had Colin Powell and Rumsfeld, and they had all the, guys there. Tom Ridge was there and others. But there was kind of, if you will, a cloud that had settled in over these guys. And the cloud was, how do I say this, very telling in that I believe it was indicative of the storm clouds that are coming over America. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. And so watching the president, listening to the president, and seeing those around him, it was like everybody was incredibly uneasy, trying to appear to be very easy, or at ease. I don't know if any of you thought about that. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, one of the stories that is really, really telling to me right now is that on Wired News, they have a story called The Danger of the Dead. Now, I know how they're going to handle the dead, and I'll tell you that I've spoken on that subject on this radio program before. But I think it's kind of, again, telling that they're talking about what happens with all of the dead bodies and what kind of a risk do they pose when we have a catastrophic event, weapons of mass destruction, and all of the corollary issues associated with it. Let me read this to you. It's by Randy Dotinga, and The Danger of the Dead. In a way, September 11, 2001 was a kind of dry run for the country's medical examiners and coroners. While thousands of people died, their bodies didn't pose a major risk to rescuers, and the final disposal of the remains has gone smoothly. Next time, the dead may be a huge threat to the living. Alarmed by the prospect of serious dangers, officials are paying more attention than ever to the medical risks posed by the aftermath of a terrorist attack. Just last month, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention issued an alert to coroners and medical examiners about how to protect themselves while still doing their jobs. Not only are people thinking about it, they're thinking about it in a formal way, said Dr. Michael Gran, Chief Medical Examiner of the City of St. Louis and President of the National Association of Medical Examiners. Disaster preparation, of course, is nothing new. Cities and counties routinely plan how to handle events like airplane crashes, hurricanes, tornadoes. But now for the first time, listen to this, disposal of dead is getting attention from officials who usually focus on the living. Before, it was not a mainstream issue in disaster management the way medical management of victims would have been. For coroners and medical examiners, the most immediate hurdle after a terrorist attack would be removing dead bodies from the scene while protecting the health of investigators, rescue workers, and themselves. While they're usually fairly harmless, corpses can spread disease, as warriors realized in the Middle Ages as they committed what may be the first act of bioterrorism in history. According to historians, they used a unique delivery system, catapults to fling plague victims over the walls in the enemy territory. In modern times, the bodies of the victims of the Tokyo sarin attacks in 1995 sicken many of the doctors assigned to take care of the injured. Fortunately, many chemicals that can be used as terrorist weapons are easy to remove. But they said the problem for medical examiners and coroners comes when you have large numbers of bodies that need to be decontaminated. Then it becomes a logistical problem. So this story is on our website, and you can go and read it in totality. But the point that I'm trying to make is now we're seeing the real news. Now, I maintain that there is the ultimate supernatural conspiracy that is carried out on Earth through willing and surrendered vessels to hell. In all the promises of power and prestige, money, etc., there are people that know exactly what they're doing. So again, when Tatiana Karajnia made the statement that Americans would be naked in the streets, that we're going to go through a devastating financial upheaval, I don't believe that she was just talking off the top of her head. I believe she was making it very, very clear. Now, ladies and gentlemen, tonight I'm going to be on Coast to Coast for the first hour giving a terrorist update. I don't know exactly where the interview is going, and there's a lot of stuff I think that George wants to ask me on air. As I believe most of you know, he does not believe in suitcase nukes. I don't believe Art does either. And I don't believe in suitcase nukes. I acknowledge that they exist. Again, the point is it's one thing to get into the intellectual argument that the cutting edge is, I guess, taken on. And by the way, I think that's a good publication. I'm not knocking them. It's just that we're diametrically opposed on that. As I was telling one of my friends today, it's one thing to hear about them. It's another thing to sit down and watch guys hammer down vodka who are bragging about how they took them through Kazakhstan and basically the financing was handled in Austria, and just laughing. I mean, just laughing over it. And I can tell you this, that I guess loose lips sink ships, but after the Cold War, no one cared. And again, the United States never followed up on it, especially when that idiot Louis Freeh was the head of the FBI. He just blew it off, and all the committees and all the senators and congressmen that tried to bring it out were kind of pushed aside. So in other words, there has been a cover-up. There's been an intentional hiding of the facts, and that's where we're at right now. We're going to reap the whirlwind, and next time I don't believe we'll be so fortunate or blessed. Thank God I can give you 160 reasons why America was saved, and those reasons are without equal. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will give you those as the days progress and give you a different set of events that transpired. Now, I want to take a break so I can get a glass of water, and then we'll be right back, and we'll continue on with what today's show is all about. Stay tuned.
Through the years of providing water filters to America, you've come to us, and we've listened. You asked us to make the water level visible to eliminate the guesswork when refilling the water. We listened. You asked for an elevated base so the system could be used in places beside on the edge of a counter. We listened. You asked us to develop a filter that was made in the USA. We listened. You asked us to include an emergency light for camping and during power outages. We listened. After 9/11, you asked us to develop a filter that was more powerful in removing chemical agents. Again, we listened. Introducing the Berkey Light, the gravity filter requested by America, designed by Americans, and made in America. Get the Berkey Light, the American water filter, for only $259 by calling New Millennium at 888-803-4438. That's toll-free, 888-803-4438. Not yet available in Iowa.
This is the Reality Radio Network on Telstar 5 Transponder 5 and on the internet at realityradionetwork.com. We would like to make available to you one of the most exciting tape series we've ever done here at the Voice of Evangelism on the Old Testament Tabernacle. Not only do you get the 3 one-hour cassettes, but a 14-page study guide, along with pictures of all the tabernacle instruments. In the tape series, we show how that everything in the Old Testament Tabernacle points us to Christ in the New Testament and how Christ fulfilled them in Bible prophecy. For a love gift of $20, we'll send you the 3-hour tape series and the 14-page study guide, postage paid. This study is instrumental in understanding both the Old and New Testaments. So please write us at the Voice of Evangelism, P.O. Box 669, Alexis, North Carolina 28006, or phone us at 704-263-4003. We also accept Visa and MasterCard. Again, you can write us at P.O. Box 669, Alexis, North Carolina 28006, or phone us at 704-263-4003.
Hi, I'm Steve from the Q-Files. If you want to stay informed, you need to own a shortwave radio. The Internet will go down in an emergency, and shortwave will be the only reliable form of communication and information. I've told you about the new Radiolab Super 909. It is the best portable radio I've ever owned. That's because the Radiolab Super 909 outperforms any other radio of its size or price. In fact, the Super 909 is the best portable radio available at any price. The reception on shortwave, AM, and FM is the best, and the radio is set up so you can easily add an outdoor shortwave antenna for even better reception. This radio, though it's only about as big as a paperback book, sounds like a much larger radio. And when you turn on the Radiolab Super 909 and see that beautiful bright blue display, you'll know you have something special. The Super 909 comes as a complete kit with an AC adapter, a portable shortwave antenna, and a carrying case. It also comes with a 1-year parts and labor warranty and a 30-day satisfaction guarantee, so you can't lose. The Radiolab Super 909 is only available from this one company, Radiolabs, and they're in short supply. Go to their website, radiolabs.com, and see the Super 909 for yourself, or call their new toll-free number, 1-877-575 3700. That's 877-575-3700. And tell them Steve Quayle sent you. Well, hi, this is Steve from the Q-Files. Your family's safety and the protection of your loved ones is your number one concern given the terrorist threats and all the natural disasters and supernatural disasters we seem to be encountering. Now safety is right down the hall in your very own smart room or safe room. You know, your home should be a place where you feel safe and protected. With all the heightened concerns about bioterrorism, nuclear terrorism, and all the different security threats, all of the different concerns with asteroids and earthquakes and earth upheavals, now there's a company that provides you with plans to build your very own affordable, innovative, multipurpose structure. Now, this is designed to protect you and your family from all emergencies, natural or man-made disasters. Complete building plans and specifications for your smart room are available in convenient PC, CD-ROM format, ready to guide you or your qualified contractor step by step through the construction process. Due to the tremendous demand for the smart room plans and specifications and the increasing threat of global terrorism, Smart Room is now offering their CD for a substantially reduced price of only $19.95 plus shipping. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this used to be a $99.95 CD-ROM, and this is for a limited time only. Now, if you want to order your complete safe room, panic room, building construction plans, you can call them at 1-800-380-1951. 1-800-380-1951. This is the most concise and easy-to-follow plans to absolutely build your shelter in place that anyone has ever done. So give Joe Campo a call, again, at 1-800-380-1951, and tell him Steve Quayle sent you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, I forgot my own commercials after being gone for a week. Joe and I met together and spent a wonderful day together. He was passing through Montana, and I got to share this with you. The plans that he has designed are second to none. Look, this isn't etch-a-sketch or a piece of chalk on the board. He has put together one of the most incredible CDs, and I say publication because he was kind enough to print it out for me too, but the point is that I don't know where you can go for $24 and figure out what you need to know, dependent on your location, how well you've got to be prepared. Now, listen, everyone, you can go to yoursmartrooms.com, www, and that's yoursmartroom.com, or you can call them at 1-800-380-1951, 1-800-380-1951. And again, what Joe has done is basically encapsulated an intense amount of information and presented it in an incredibly easy-to-understand format. In addition, if those of you are out there that don't want to mess with it or don't have time to mess with it, he can provide and does provide prefabricated units that can be delivered to your location. I asked Joe, I said, Joe, how long do you think we have to get however many units that people are interested out there? And he said, well, Steve, he said, depending on, how people get their orders, and he said we probably have 60 to 90 days to get out 60 to 90 of them. In other words, he can get out about one a day. So for those of you that are not construction-oriented and you want to have a safe room as an auxiliary, almost like a safe shed, or a smart shed that you could go to in a difficult situation, he can provide that for you too. So the neat thing about it is, I got to share this with you. He's too modest. His background in building is phenomenal. I am not going to let the cat out of the bag, but I will say this: some of the nation's biggest chains have been had their buildings built for him by Joe Campo Sr. And by the way, good evening, Joe Campo Sr. and his son Joe. So a father and son team that have built a lot of structures throughout the country. So ladies and gentlemen, again, for those of you that have not ordered the CD, as the intensity of the terrorist alerts goes up, and by the way, you can't shoot through these things. One of the issues that I talked to Joe about when he was here too, I said, Joe, most people don't understand this, but a stick house gives them very little. Stick meaning a standard house. Even a brick house doesn't give you much protection against not only stray bullets, but intentional high-powered rounds, let's say of a 50 caliber or something. So the nice thing about the Smart Room is it is an ultimate protective home, and for those of you who are in ground zero areas, and those of you who are expecting the worst case and preparing for it, at least get the plans and get them as quickly as possible. Joe had so many orders that he said it took him about a week to get everything sorted out. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, it's like anything. It's available now with reasonable shipping times, which means immediately in the case of the CD plans, and you can call him at 1-800-380-1951. And I've got to share this with you. Being in the desert, out in the middle of nowhere, I did have my radio with me. The point that, and I had batteries in it, it dawned on me how neat a thing that Radiolabs has put together in their portable solar power. Now, this is neat because this is a small, highly efficient solar panel that delivers 10.4 watts, which is more than enough power to run any FM or AM or shortwave receiver, charge the battery pack at the same time. And this is a perpetual power center. I love that word, because in overcast conditions, it'll keep their Super 909 operating 24 hours a day, indefinitely, and still recharge the battery pack. Now, one of the things I think that's important that you understand is that the power grid is going down in a story. And to have communication, I don't know, I've been in so many situations where in order to overcome the monotony, even listening to, in my case, some of the old country music channels, which some of you say, oh, that'd be worse than anything, but no, seriously, the ability to stay informed and just to hear the 2 or 3 minute news segments kept you in a framework of at least feeling like you're in touch. For those of you who are solo out there, I talked to one of my blind listeners today, and she told me she's been listening to shortwave. She's 50, and she's been listening to shortwave for almost 41 years. And it was amazing because, again, here's a lady that has lost her earthly sight, but I got to tell you something, the insight and the vision and the amazing stuff that God has shown her is just phenomenal. And again, she stays in touch with a shortwave. So again, ladies and gentlemen, the portable solar power pack, call Radiolabs at 1-877-575-3700 and order one of those today. I promise you this, you will soon find out of sheer frustration. And I being addicted to the internet, 6 days away from any computer, I can't chew my nails any further. No, not really. I could call my webmaster, Holly Dale, and she kept me updated, and so God bless her for that. But again, I did chew my nails. The bottom line is that being able to have an information source and be able to power that information source pretty much indefinitely. These things, by the way, the power panels on these deals are good for 20 years, so that's pretty cheap batteries. And again, they have a special. If you buy both the Super 909 with a 10-watt portable power pack, you'll save $50. So give Chris Justice a call, ladies and gentlemen, 877-575-3700. I've told you for a long time the only real news is on shortwave and the internet. The rest of it is nothing more than rehashed vomit. Those are my words. I'm especially responsible for them. Or as some would say, maybe irresponsible with them. But I got to tell you, we are seeing things now that are absolutely threatening our normal thought processes. I also want you to know that I'm on record, and if you go back to my global terror alerts, it was one of the first guys that said that the Vatican is the ultimate target for jihad. The reason that is obviously to the jihadis, the Vatican represents, the large Christian church, the Catholic Church. Now, coming out of Egypt, this story is totally out of Egypt, and it's by Salah Nasrawi. And here's what the story says. Italy threatened with mass destruction. Withdrawal from Iraq or suffer consequences, Al-Qaeda group warns. Now, ladies and gentlemen, how are you going to get the Catholics to head to Jerusalem, and how are you going to get the New World Order to head to Jerusalem? Well, easy. You take out the headquarters of the United Nations in New York, which, by the way, they were direct nuclear threats to the United Nations, verified through multiple sources, and everybody said, oh, gee, that really never happened. I can't do anything about denial except tell you that go on a tour, see Egypt, and then you can see denial in person. An Al-Qaeda-linked group gave Italy another 15 days to withdraw its troops from Iraq before sending, how do you like this, waves of earthquakes to erase your country. Now, for the record, if you've ever heard of the word Vesuvius, Stromboli, or any of the other active volcanoes in the area of Italy, Italy could be one of the most unique targets from a standpoint of being especially susceptible to black market Russian seismic weapons. Now, this is fascinating, and this is really important. Waves of earthquakes, quote, to erase your country. It was a fourth threat in 2 weeks against a key American ally. The statement signed by Abu Hafs al-Masri brigades and sent to the London-based Quds El Arabi newspaper followed the expiration of a 3-month truce purportedly made in April by Osama bin Laden to European states. You're going to love this one. The language of our blood is on its way to you. We mobilize all our cells in Rome and all our other Italian cities. We give Premier Silvio Berlusconi 15 days to pull out from Iraq and after that, the blood of all Italians everywhere will be free for us, said the statement, faxed the Associated Press by the newspaper. We will send waves of earthquakes to erase your country, completely burn it, and will burn everything. The statements urged the Italians to remember September 11, 2001, terrorist bombings in the United States and the bombs in Madrid last March. Editors at the London office of the newspaper said they received the statement via email. There was no way to verify its authenticity. Now, ladies and gentlemen, again, it's very striking because the Vatican is a very, very prime target. And I can share this with you, and I think you can follow the thread very easily, that Europe is way under-defended as far as terrorism goes compared to the United States. And again, given the history of the Crusades being in Europe, I think that there is almost a supernatural driving historic group of evil spirits that basically are going to go back and relive their previous battles and wars. So keep your eyes on Italy. Keep your eyes, especially on the Vatican. Keep your eyes on the fact that as we see oil again hit close to $50 to $55 a barrel, watch now what starts to happen in not only this country, but on the Iraqi pipelines and the Saudi pipelines. And I would encourage everyone to who is in charge of security that's listening to this radio broadcast to double your efforts. I mean that literally. You know, unfortunately, you can drive by so many refineries in America, and on the new issue of Camp Al-Batar, the terrorist training manual, they're talking about RPGs, and if you put an incendiary device, and they have specific missiles that are loaded into the RPGs, the shoulder-fired, initially anti-tank rifles. The point is you could set off such incredible mayhem and chaos. Now ask yourself this. It's one thing, it's bad enough when gas is $3 to $3.50 a barrel, but again, the issue, everyone, is not what it's going to cost, it's the availability. Remember, the United States is coming to a standstill. I stated that years ago on this broadcast, and the point is that's also in the archives, and specifically, no trains will run, no planes will fly, no trucks will run, and the entire interstate system will be deserted except for the military choke points and checkpoints. And ladies and gentlemen, I've literally seen the highways of America through a panorama of the end times, if you will, with grass coming up and basically hordes of people just pulling and pushing wagons, and such a sad state of affairs. And if you don't think that can happen in this country, I would just encourage even those of you who are atheists and agnostics to read just about the history of what happened when Jerusalem itself was attacked, and not only Jerusalem, but read about the Assyrian wars, read about the Babylonian conquest, and you'll see that refugees are nothing new to the 20th or 21st century. They've been around for as long as the earth has existed as far as being populated by the descendants of Adam. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to understand the issue will not be price, it will be availability. Same thing with the precious metals. You know, it's amazing. Every time I talk about the precious metals, people say, well, they haven't done anything. They haven't done anything. Good night. You've got to recognize that when we're dealing with silver, silver's had a range as low as, $556 to $565, all the way up to $895 in a little over 6 months. Platinum and palladium, again, are moving up. I think platinum just shot through the roof today. And again, palladium is getting new interest again overseas. So you've got to ask yourself this question. If everybody panics at the same time, if everybody in New York wanted to buy gasoline from one service station, it would be impossible, right? Well, given the amount of coin dealers in America and people that sell metals at this point, I think it's somewhere around 40,000. Can you imagine 200 million panic people running for the door at the same time? That's what I'm trying to get through to you. It's that it will be a vehicle of bartering. Now, some of you send me emails all the time. The gold and silver is going to rot in the streets. Absolutely, during the day of the Lord. The day of the Lord, the devil's got 3.5 years to make war on the Christians. The day of the Lord is when God settles it all in one day. The point is that when you're talking about that time, I got news for you. Money won't be able to not only buy you love, but it won't buy you anything. And for those of you that have not given your storage food a second thought since Y2K, have you not seen the open statements that everything you eat, everything you buy is going to have an RFID chip in it? I can tell you this, the best reason I know for buying long-term storage food is to get away from the RFID, radio frequency identification tag or device that's going to be put into everything. So again, you've got to understand this, that as times get tougher, more difficult, the tracking and the monitoring of food sources and supplies. And someone says, well, yeah, but they can always take it. Not if they can't find it. And obviously they can't take you if they can't find you. You see, again, I think people have got to get away from they're coming for my stuff to realize they're coming for you. Please go to my website. One of the most important stories I feel that's been posted on my website of what the true state will be for the United States is Al Cuppett's story that I referred to. German Homeland Security cops caught illegally screening U.S. citizens in Delaware. It's the second to the bottom story on SteveQuayle.com. You've got to read that. Now, I don't know about you, but it would absolutely infuriate me that if someone went to put a HK-MP5 in my face. Now, for the record, I used to be a licensed gun dealer. I used to be a licensed Class 3 dealer. That means that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to machine guns and that kind of stuff. And I can only tell you point blank that if someone asked me for my papers with a foreign accent, I would only hope that I would be as brave and as quick in my weapon takeaway as this guy was. Al calls him Bravo India. And again, I want to share this for all of you that may not be able to get on the Internet for whatever reason. Now I've got the complete story. He said, on July 9, 2004, a friend of mine, Bravo India, was traveling to New Jersey with a friend, Oscar Hotel, to visit a relative. They stopped at a truck stop restaurant on Route 13, not far from the junction of I-95 in Delaware. Oscar was driving. As they pulled into the stop restaurant on the right side of Route 13 northbound, they saw at least 4 black SUVs with no markings or logos. Inside, they saw 4 armed black uniformed men, each carrying H&K MP5 9mm submachine guns. And actually, I think based on what Al told me, they're MP5 PDWs, which is personal defense weapons. Okay, along with individual sidearms, uniforms had no insignia nor there were any badges, leg stripes, or patches in evidence. One of the cops was manning a small laptop resembling a computer. They were pulling aside U.S. citizens, just like I said would happen in my 1998 Prophecy Club videos, straight from the Joint Chiefs and Black Operations Prophecy, and checking their IDs, and who knows what else. The cops did not get to that stage with Bravo India. Furthermore, upon entering the restaurant, he had told Oscar, if something happens here, take off. Don't wait for me. The laptop was surely connected to the Red Blue List database in real time. Anyone found on either side of the list would have disappeared, just as I've been warning for years. Bravo India, upon coming from the restroom, was approached by one of the cops and told to come over to the computer. Bravo India, noting a slight accent, immediately checked the MP5 hanging from the cop's right shoulder. It was a fully automatic weapon with FRG German markings on it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what that means is when Heckler & Koch sells any of their machine guns or submachine guns to the United States, they obviously put American markings on it. Bravo India, and God bless him, and I want to meet this guy someday, he basically noticed that this was a German-issued MP5, and so immediately, I got to tell you, he was incredibly smart. He shouted, hey, who are you guys? You're not Americans, and you're carrying illegal weapons. Now, he was right on that because you cannot have a German MP5 in the country legally. Don't ask me to explain, it's too complicated, but you have to have all machine guns, supposedly, that are in the country. They have to be registered through the BATF. They've got to be marked accordingly, and there's a bunch of rules. But suffice it to say, he knew this, okay? The surprised cop, then one hand grabbed him and replied, Homeland Security. Also speaking quickly in German to one of the other cops standing close by. The verbalization of that single foreign phrase command verified what was going on. Immediately, Bravo India, this is the American, was hit in the side by a police baton. Having a martial arts degree, he punched the offending cop in the solar plexus, but hit body armor. He then instinctively, karate style, went into a gang attack mode and put his elbow into the larynx of the holding officer, who then let go. The throat blow disabled the cop, allowing Bravo India to quickly strip the MP5 from his shoulder. He flipped the safety off and stuck it in the cop's face, warning the cops to drop your weapons to the floor, because this will be a headshot. Bravo India signaled Oscar to go. With husky-looking bikers and others standing by, the in-shock cops dropped their weapons. Bravo India told the bikers to pick up the weapons because these ain't American cops and they have no legal status. To that, one biker says, yeah, they don't have any badges or anything. Who are these guys? Not one word was uttered by any of the 4 cops in their defense. Now listen to this. This is amazing. This is really amazing. They were completely disoriented by the rapidly unfolding events, the likes of which they had not expected. The cops are probably on a familiarization and training mission to include a desensitization of the American people to the UN cop stops exercise. However, they would have arrested as quietly as possible, any of them. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the story goes on just another paragraph or two, but you've got to go and read it. It's on my website. Welcome to the New World Order.